everybody, I'm back from vacation. Spent 5 days in a resort in Jamaica. Got to meet a lot of cool people. Got to visit some family while we were out there. And now I'm back, and this is what I brought back. I got my Scooby-Doo hippie van template here that I added to my door of goodies. So, good vibes only in Jamaica. Yeah, man. Okay, so what we're going to be doing now is I mentioned that I needed a new brake line. This one was leaking. Took it off. I had a new one cut, actually at a hydraulic shop, because in the past, every time I've gotten a universal length one, it was either too short or it was too long, and I had to twist and gang up and make sure that the slack was taking out and it didn't look good. So this one should look good when it's done. I'm going to go ahead and install that. I got my vacuum brake bleeder, and so we're going to start by pulling fluid through the brakes and getting the old fluid out and the good fluid in. And unfortunately, man, there's like a million parts to this thing, so it's like the launch procedure for the space shuttle. I'm gonna have to read through this and figure everything out. But I'm going to install that hydraulic brake line, and then I'll start filming on the vacuum bleeder for the brakes. All right, hang in there. Okay, check this out. All these, I didn't want to fuss with these trying to bleed it, so I decided to take them all out. They're basically rusted in place because they sat so long. Like I said, this project's been going on for like 10 years. So I am pulling every one of these out with a 8-point socket, and then I am cleaning them up and reinstalling them so that during the bleeding process I don't have to fight the rust. Alright, so now we've got the vacuum bleeder hooked up. I had to learn German in order to find out that both the English and the German say the same thing in the instructions, but I feel smarter because of that. So now basically we've got an air supply hooked up here. I've got it turned to about 40 psi. It's going to blow through here out, and when it does, it creates a low pressure in the tank, which draws the fluid. So I'm going to get this started here. I got vacuum applied. I open up the bleeder, and we should start seeing fluid come down, but unfortunately it's bubbles, and there we go. Let me pinch that off. Yep, there's still air in there. Still air, more air. All right, so we're going to let this run. till we get no more bubbles in there. I don't know if you can see that on the camera or not. And you have to make sure that you maintain fluid in your brake master cylinder so that you don't run it out. Alright, so let me go check that. But basically that's the whole process. I'm going to do the two rear, and you always want to go from the tire that's furthest away from the master cylinder, which would be the right passenger, and then you go to the left or the driver's rear, and then you do the same thing in the front. Passenger first and then driver last. Okay, but basically that's all there is to it. It's not rocket science. I think this is a pretty cool bleeder. And I mean, it's the best one I've had. I've had the hand pump ones before, but for whatever reason I couldn't find them. Probably because they broke, they're cheap, and I threw them out already, and then when I needed another one, I went on Amazon and got this kit. I looked up professional vacuum brake bleeding kits. Alright, with the bleeder screws on, the two rear bleeder screws were 3/8. The passenger side front was 10 millimeter, and this one here that's broke off was 5/16. So that was rusted in there. I've got to see if I can track down my extractors, see if I can get that out. If I can't, I'm going to have to go and get another caliper. So we'll see if that comes out, but it's kind of crazy on how these old parts now come, some with metric parts added on, etc., but very inconsistent. But let me see if I can find an extractor. And also I was going to bleed the clutch cylinder, and it's pouring out as fast as I put it in, so it looks like the either the cups came out on that cylinder, or I'm going to need a new Jeep cylinder to put in there for the clutch. But you really can't see it. But anyway, stripping on the floor, and we'll keep moving on piece by piece. It's how you eat an elephant, one piece at a time. Alright, well, we got the clutch cylinder out, and sure enough, this thing is blown out. You can see with the gasket there, so that's got to be replaced. It's basically a stock Jeep AX15 cylinder. It's about 55 to 60 bucks, and unfortunately my extractor broke off in the bleeder, so I'm going to have to take this whole thing off and replace it. And I've already done the upgrade to the Chevy 3/4 ton calipers. These calipers have the same housing but a larger piston than what Jeep offered. So you can get these, and they have basically larger pads and a larger piston, so you get more braking. So it's the JB7 series of calipers and pads that you need, and they all fit the full-size Jeeps. Okay, so I'm going to head to the store, see what I can track down, and we'll get these hydraulics working. Alright, so let me show you what we're doing here. We got two things going on. We got the replacement of this caliper because I broke the bleeder off, and the only modification that we need to do to use the heavy-duty Chevy version is we just have to cut this little bit out here and a little bit out here so that the fitting will set in there, the hose fitting will set in. Chevy uses something a little bit different, still the same banjo bolt, but what we'll do is we'll cut that out, we'll grind it out so that it fits. Okay, and the other thing that we're working on is the AX15 throwout bearing, because what we're seeing is we're seeing over travel where it's actually pushing out further than the cylinder has travel for, and it's basically pushing the cup and the piston out. And I believe that's because I didn't adjust this correctly. It's supposed to be set up that there's about 10 thousandths from the clutch itself and the throwout bearing, and I was real liberal on that. I remember doing it, and so I'm going to put this to where it needs to be, and what we'll have to do is we'll have to measure from the face of the transmission to the throwout bearing, and also from the clutch. We'll go from the face where the transmission bolts, we'll measure out here to this clutch, and we'll get the distance, and then we'll subtract 10,000 from it and set that bearing up to where it's supposed to be. Because that's the only thing that I can think of, is that it's the throwout bearing is not making contact in time, and the cylinder's overextending. If that's not the case, then the easy fix will be is we're going to extend the rod that goes from the cylinder that pushes the fork, and either way we're going to get this thing working. So let me shut off the camera, and I'll get this trimmed up and cut up so that it'll fit. One thing that you want to make sure of is you do not want to nick this seat here, because I've done it. If you nick this seat, it will never seal, because brake pressure is really high, and so if you got a nick in there, it is not going to seal. Okay, so let me turn the camera off, get my tools set up, and we'll start working on it. Okay, let me show you what I did. I put the old Bando bolt on there. It's got a flared flange fitting, and that protects me from the tool grabbing or something and nicking the seat. Okay, so put that in there first, and then grind off the excess so that you can get your full-size Jeep brake hose on there. And I've already test fitted it. It will fit. So let me go ahead and put that baby in. More lightage. Okay, we're going to spray everything down with Brake Clean. There we go. Clean those pads because they've been sitting so long. And these bad boys on here. Oh, can't do that. We gotta put the pads on. Okay, torque doesn't need to be that much. You don't even want to fart on this torque. It's light torque. Okay. Tighten up that banjo joint, baby. Yes, sir. Okay. Well, fellas, I think we can release this now. See if we get any gravity feed in there. And guess what? This one's a 10 millimeter also. So how about that? You know? Okay. I don't see anything coming through there yet. Let's see. Probably gravity feeding, filling it up. Let me grab some never sees out there. There it goes. Whoop whoop. Gravity feed. All right. Okay, so that stopped. Don't see any leakage anywhere else. Swipe that off. There's no leakage. Okay. Now we can put the vacuum feed on there, or the vacuum bleeder, and get this thing going. Okay, we're bleeding. Not really seeing any bubbles, so this is good. All right. That was easy peasy. Now the brakes are done, and we'll move on to the throwout bearing. Start ciphering that. All right, let's do that video thing that they do. All right, let's go to the AX15 transmission. All right, so I believe that I've got the throwout bearing figured out. The distance that the throwout, or I should say the clutch face, is to the throwout bearing is 4 inches. So basically from this surface, which is also the surface or the rear surface of the transmission or the engine block, is 4 inches, almost 4 inches exactly. So I've got that marked in here in case I want to question it later when I'm taking this apart and doing maintenance. But basically at this position here, travel to go ahead and engage the clutch. So I feel comfortable with that, and I've got this put onto my toolbox, and that's going to be my transmission jack. I'm basically going to lower the vehicle, slide this underneath it, and remount the transmission. So that all looks good. I believe that we got a handle on this, and I'll follow up once I get it installed to make sure that the hydraulics are working correctly, and then we'll close this video. If it's not working correctly, then we'll work on it some more, because I want to make sure that the brakes and the clutch are working on this before I close the video. Alright, thanks. Let's move it. Alright, well, the transmission is in. Check out, I had to modify my transmission lift. So the toolbox with a little platform hydraulic lift, scissors lift, was what it took to get it in there. So it just goes to show you, like, the way you guys work in the driveway, the sidewalk, and in the dirt, where there's a will, there's a way. All you need is a little imagination, and you can put something together to make it work. So that is my new transmission lift. So it worked great. And now all I got to do is install the transfer case that's sitting on the floor over there and the cross member. Get that clutch cylinder bled and adjusted, and then we can try it out. Finally. Okay, so after doing some ciphering and not wanting to have this over travel the clutch, but I have good clutch now. I have clutch that works. I can pump up the clutch. It does not over travel, and the clutch releases. But let me show you what I found out. This on top of obviously getting the correct throwout bearing location compared to the clutch disc, I was also seeing that the spring, the return spring on here, wanted its neutral position to be basically within like 3/4 of an inch of actually being full stroke, which means when this sits idle, that the piston and everything on here is already forward, and there's only like 3/4 of an inch of travel. So when I set up the throwout bearing in the fork, I noticed that the idle position of the rod needed to be 2 inches further in. So what I did, I didn't want to give up any stroke, because I don't want to have not enough stroke, and I don't want it to over travel. But so what I ended up doing, this is not the spring, this is the old one that I blew out, but I basically cut 4 coils off of this spring. So now the idle position, once the hydraulics are released and it's idle, now the piston rod sticks out to about here, which is 3/4 inches from the face. And so that works, because it provides 3 inches of travel, a lot of stroke, and the idle position where the spring is way towards the back, so the spring tension is not going to push that throwout bearing into the disc, the clutch disc, during normal operation. So everything looks like it's working. I'm going to go ahead and close out this video. Let's get a quick look at how this thing sets up in there. Okay, yeah, there it is. Okay, so that is the clutch cylinder, and it goes up. I made a custom line to go up to the Summit Racing remote reservoir, and it was a low profile unit. Let me show you, because this gets kind of squirrely. There's not a whole lot of room with the brake booster and everything. Going to do that. See it? There's a remote reservoir, and then underneath that is a small master cylinder that attaches to the clutch pedal. So that's what I did to get my AX15 working. If you look at the torque numbers and everything, the AX15 is able to handle 300 plus or minus pounds of torque. The stock V8 puts out roughly 275 to 300, so it's within there. Now Novak makes a kit, except the master cylinder would not fit on a full-size Jeep. So that's why I went to the smaller remote reservoir Summit Racing Master, and I went to the stock slave cylinder, and I had to cut, like I said, basically 3-4 lengths out of that spring in order to get the throw to where I needed it. But so now the only custom part that I have in this whole setup that I would be worried about not getting years from now would be the Novak adjustable throwout bearing. So I'm going to, because this one's been sitting so long, I'm going to call Novak and get a replacement bearing just so that I have one in case. But it looks like it's working. So now what's next on the Cherokee? We have 2 rear passenger panel side panels that we need to build. I've got carpet that matches the other carpet to panel them. Also, I have to work out the wiring underneath the dash. I've got to work out the cut wiring in the back. So it looks like it's going to be wiring and a few cosmetics, but that's what the next episodes will be on. Talk to you later. Bye.